Admiral James Stavridis, who's probably run one of those strike groups himself, given that he was former Allied Supreme Commander, head of Southern Command. And before you do those jobs, you usually run a strike force group, don't you, Admiral?
Yeah, I was commander of Enterprise Carrier Strike Group Hugh for 2 years. Participated in Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom, operations off the Horn of Africa, combat operations in all three zones. So I know pretty well what it's like to be in command. It's an aircraft carrier that's got 5,000 people plus an air wing of 80 combat aircraft. This particular carrier, Gerald R. Ford, brand new, our best, our biggest, surrounded by surface combatants. This one has 4 Arleigh Burke class destroyers. I commanded the second of that class when I was a young commander, had a little hair then even. And it also has a cruiser Normandy with them, other supporting ships, probably a submarine or two in the area. So, bottom line, Hugh, it's an immense amount of U.S. combat power, and it's an arrow pointed right at Hezbollah, and it's a signal to Iran. In simple terms, don't even think about it, because Hezbollah, with their 130,000 surface-to-surface missiles, could pose a near existential threat to Israel. That's why that carrier strike group is there. Believe me, they would be very effective rolling over southern Lebanon to eliminate that threat. And that is a clear signal to Tehran. It was a smart move to bring them forward, and I'm very proud of that carrier strike group.
Can Hezbollah threaten that carrier strike group with their, I've heard 140,000 ballistic missiles? Can they threaten any of the ships?
Uh, in very modest ways, nothing like what China could do in the South China Sea, and a lesser step than what Iran could do in the Persian Gulf. Hezbollah doesn't have diesel submarines. They don't have long range aircraft. They don't have highly sophisticated cruise missiles. However, they do have some surface to surface cruise missiles that potentially, using drones with targeting, might might propose a small threat. I would worry most, as strike group commander there, of suicide missions or surface drones. Think what's happened to the Black Sea Fleet, the Russians. The Ukrainians have gone after them quite effectively with uh, unmanned vehicles that potentially could pose a threat. Again, if the force of that carrier strike group is on alert, and believe me, they are leaning forward right now, they will be just fine in terms of their own self-defense. And also, Hugh, they are hooking up in command and control with the Israeli overall command and control, using those E-2 Hawkeyes, long range air surveillance planes that can create a real ground picture as well as an air picture. That helps fold in with the Israeli air defense systems. All of that gives a better sight picture. We do this frequently with the Israelis. When I was Supreme Allied Commander of NATO, also Commander of European Command, we conducted exercises constantly linking sea forces and the Israeli Defense Forces. And by the way, to give credit to the Air Force, they are also flooding F-15 Strike Eagles forward. Those are going into our bases in the Middle East. And so all of that is a signal to Iran. It's a very good one.
Admiral, do you think we ought to have a second carrier strike group in the Persian Gulf? Because the Ford can't reach Iran, according to my and our friend Jerry Hendricks. So the Ford's assets cannot reach Iran. Do we need another strike group in the Persian Gulf?
Yes, we do. And I suspect you'll see that happen in the next week, or you'll see that announcement made. Hey, I'm going to flip the tables on us, Hugh. I want to ask you a question, if I can, since you're an observer of the scene in Washington. Here we have an American aircraft carrier surrounded by warships, about potentially to be in combat, yet we don't have a chief of naval operations confirmed. We don't have a deputy commander of U.S. Central Command who's a vice admiral who needs to be confirmed. Why is that? And what's wrong with the
Because we have
Republican
one really
Party?
stupid senator from Alabama named Tommy Tuberville who remains stupid and is indifferent to the lives and safety of our military. And I know the rules of the Senate prevent other Republicans from saying that out loud, but they believe it. And they've got to take him aside. We also don't have a speaker because of 8 knuckleheads, and we can't pass a resolution. So we have political dysfunction. Tommy Tuberville is wrong. The 8 that threw out Kevin McCarthy are wrong. But I want to return to a moment to something, Admiral, that is military. I do not know how more. There are 1,500 dead terrorists in Israel, 1,500 bodies. There are 900 people with their throat slits, 100 hostages. It's an amazing intelligence failure. How in the world do both the Israeli and the American not see a strike group that had to be 2,500 terrorists massing? How do we miss that?
Great question. I'll give you two theories of the case. And believe me, the Israelis will be pulling this apart for a year, just as we did after 9/11. By the way, if you haven't read it in a while, go back and reread the 9/11 report, a superb, bipartisan tearing apart of our intelligence failure, to which this is quite comparable. And it led to the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, of U.S. Northern Command, and most importantly, it's led to 20 years without a successful terrorist attack in the United States. Go back and reread the 9/11 report. Israel will do that, but I'll give you two snapshots that are my opinions. Number one, complacency. And I think this was extant across Israel and across the United States. 2, 3 weeks ago, our national security advisor, good friend of mine, Jake Sullivan, said, hey, the Middle East has never been quieter. He did say it could change very suddenly, but I think there was a sense in Washington and equally in Jerusalem that we were moving toward fulfilling the Abraham Accords, bringing Saudi Arabia and Israel together. There was just a lot of optimism and, frankly, complacency. And point two is internal to Israel. It is the divisions in Israeli society, the fact that reservists were refusing to be mobilized. How many of them were intelligence officers? How many of them were on a soft work strike? Massive protests. Israel, I think, because of all those internal struggles, was not as forward looking as it should have been. They're going to have to tear it apart. Mossad, Shin Bet, IDF intelligence. The short answer, I don't know, but there are two things that concern me: complacency and internal turmoil.
Admiral, the two strongest countries in the world, the United States and Israel, two strongest free countries in the world, both have political dysfunction. Because Senator Schumer, by the way, could have brought up the CNO for confirmation. It's long and laborious, and he likes the political problem that the Republicans have. He did get Chairman Brown confirmed. He did get the Commandant of the Marine Corps and the Army Chief of Staff. He could have brought them forward. He sent the Senate home. That's political dysfunction. 8 Democrats or 3 Democrats could have stepped up and kept Kevin McCarthy in the speaker's chair. That's political dysfunction. Political dysfunction is in both of these free societies, and they're not. I mean, I want to ask you: do you think Iran is unaware of our broken southern border? These are malicious, malign geniuses, and what they orchestrated with Hamas as their puppet, they can orchestrate with an open southern border. Do you think they are aware of that?
Of course they are. And it is very telling to make the point about internal discord and dysfunction. And if you look at the run up to 9/11, we didn't have that broad level of political discord, but we had a lot of infighting in the U.S. intelligence community. It's a fundamental axiom that we are stronger together, whether it's our intelligence community, our interagency, our alliance structure, above all, our internal politics. And yes, Iran is aware of what's happening on our southern border, and with some possibility, they could use that to move terrorists into our country. If I'm running Hamas, by the way, I'm looking at that southern border.
Hadn't thought of that. You're right.
We ought to be very concerned about that. And I think, I hope, our U.S. uh, law enforcement, our U.S. Border Patrol, our Department of Homeland Security, who are having extreme challenges in the southern border. This now adds another degree of difficulty and a higher level of alert given the
Admiral, I want to ask
circumstances.
one more question before we run out of time. I'm a civilian, and I'm just sick to my stomach over this story. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this since 9/11, and 9/11 is even less sort of the inhumanity, the monstrous nature of what happened in Israel on Saturday. Are you reeling from it, or as a professional warrior, do you just move on? Are you able to absorb it? Because I think the whole state of Israel must be in shock.
Beyond shock. And if you stop and think about the numbers here, Hugh, 1,000 dead Israelis, population adjusted, is like 35,000 dead Americans. 100 Israeli hostages is like 3,500 American hostages. This is 9/11 with hostages. It is a remarkably horrible, and here's the point you just made, and I too am hit by it. It's how personal this is. The pictures of baby cribs knocked over, of little strollers, the rapes, the awful inhumanity, the way in which people are killed. 9/11 was massive explosions. This was personal. This was face to face, deliberate killing of innocents. That
How long does it take to brainwash someone to do that, Admiral? I mean, they've got thousands of brainwashed people who've lost their humanity.
And this was the question my wife Laura and I were discussing this morning. And the answer is it starts at birth in a very path.
Admiral James Stavridis, retired United States Navy. Thank you, Admiral. Always good to check in with you for some facts and specifics. We don't agree on a lot, but we agree on most things that are important. Thank you, Admiral.